Life ain't easy, man.
Is it just a 2-hour time difference?
3.
Yeah.
2.
No, just 2, right?
2, yeah, because you guys are central. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
3 back to like home.
Yeah, 3 to Eastern with Michigan. Yeah.
Michigan's in a different time zone.
Yep.
God,
Yeah.
I always forget about that.
Yeah,
I sure don't.
especially when we've had that show.
Yeah, we played a show in Michigan, and as we cross the border, like the hours change. They're like, oh fuck, we're late.
Oh no!
And we were like, we're always like on time for every show. Like
So,
usually
we
like
just
early.
had
Like
a anxiety attack between two cars texting each other.
Oh, what a
Yeah.
horrial feeling.
we're usually like getting to
we were on
yeah,
like
it was like a
third.
house show. It was totally fine. But yeah, we're usually like getting to the venue and like, the place is locked up. Like there's no one here yet. So it was kind of the opposite of our usual MO.
Yeah.
So
That doesn't surprise me with you guys.
hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. This is episode number 64, and my name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery
Hey, everybody.
and John Hines.
Hello.
And you know, with that lucky number 64, we don't have any milestones coming up soon. I guess we could call episode 75 a milestone or something, but we are hundreds of ways off, no
Yeah.
real milestones. So why not celebrate for no real reason other than it's episode 64, the Nintendo 64?
It's a good enough reason.
It's a great console, and we obviously, if you've listened to any of our episodes in the past, you probably know that most of us are Nintendo fanboys.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just gonna kind of open things up, get warmed up here, talk a little Nintendo 64, and I've definitely got tons of fond memories.
Yeah.
More as like a multiplayer system playing the Nintendo 64, like getting together with everyone in the neighborhood, playing Wayne Gretzky 3D hockey.
Hell yeah.
Or playing like a
NFL
little bit
Blitz.
of Smash Brothers. I didn't
Yeah.
play that, but NFL Blitz, which is basically the football version of Wayne Gretzky 3D hockey, or
I love
probably
that.
vice
We're
versa.
probably the only ones that ever framed it that way. I love that.
Yeah. But it was so great. I know they made, I think, 99 as well, like a follow-up sequel, Wayne Gretzky 3D hockey 99.
It's
or something.
98. Thank you very much.
Oh,
and I own it
98.
on cartridge.
This is the most Michigan you guys have ever been.
Oh, man. It always made me mad because my favorite I played hockey growing up, and like my favorite hockey player was Mario Lemieux, and I hated Gretzky.
Oh.
But, he's good. He's all right. But yeah, I just that's kind of my main memory. Like between like borrowing, like I would borrow my friend Ryan Schaefer. I'd borrow like his cartridge of Yoshi's Story. I think I might have even talked about that on the podcast before.
Oh
Yeah.
And yeah, just like those are my and playing GoldenEye, of course, like with the friends in the neighborhood. Like we would just get together pretty regularly and play 4-player split screen. But what about you guys? What are your like 64 thoughts or memories or whatever?
First off, I want to throw out that Perfect Dark is a better version of GoldenEye.
I never really played that. I own it. I think I picked it up like later on in my collecting days, but I never played that one much.
It's great. Uses the expansion pack. So
Yeah.
you got a better frame rate. You got a lot more weapons. You have there's just so much creativity in that game with like what was it? It's been long enough that I can't remember the names of the weapons, but I know what they do. Like the one you throw on the wall and it turns into like a turret gun.
Okay.
You could be making this up. Like,
I remember the proximity mines in GoldenEye.
Oh
Like,
yeah, of course.
that was the mode we would always play, proximity. It was just so fun to like plant one right on a door as someone just watch somebody run through to like coming after you and just blow up. It was so great.
Now I'm trying to remember if the motion sensor bombs in Smash for 64 were actually based off the proximity mines. Because like that was the nice thing about the like Smash Brother games was like the trophies or whatever would like tell you what games they were from.
Right.
But actually no, I don't think the 64 had trophies. So it was just that it would because that was
I think
the
that was
64
a Melee thing, wasn't it?
Smash was how I found out about Metroid. Period.
Wow.
Because, like,
Really?
Like yeah, because
Really?
like the 64 was my first system other than the game, like my first like console. My first like, system was a Game Boy.
That
so,
makes
like,
sense too, because
when I
Metroid
started-
2 was years beforehand. So
Right.
yeah.
So like I played as Samus a ton, and I was like, there's no N64 game for Samus. I don't know what game this is from.
there should
like,
have been.
Kirby, like at that point, like Kirby was my favorite game series. So like everything I played was Kirby related. or like Mario related. Like it wasn't, like Smash was my gateway into a ton of series. Yeah, like when NES came around, I was like, I have no idea what this is from.
Yeah, same here. I was like, wait, what?
Yep.
And yeah, for sure.
Loved Ness in 64, in Smash 64 too. Loved him. He was my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Just doing like the PK fire or whatever and having it like loop around, which you can do in all the Smash games with Ness, I think. But,
PK Thunder.
Yeah, I just really love like the break the targets mode and land on the platforms. I know it's stupid, but I played the shit out of those modes.
And how each character had their own break the target stage. Like, that was suited to their special abilities. It was such a good, Smash was great. HAL Laboratories is probably one of my favorite, like, second party developers for Nintendo.
Yeah, they're a great like force for Nintendo for sure.
And an all-time logo too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that dog
with the eggs,
or whatever.
Man.
Yeah, so
like,
good.
Rare had its like Time to Shine with Perfect Dark and like Donkey Kong Country or Donkey Kong 64 rather, and then wow, you the crestfallen looks on both of your faces when I mentioned
Donkey Kong 64. DJ would back you up, but Donkey Kong 64 is not a good game. I'm sorry.
I would only get like a couple games a year because 64 games are expensive, and I begged my mom for that game for Christmas, and that was a mistake.
You're a fan of that one though, John?
I liked it because it was I was a fan of every 3D world game like Banjo-Kazooie, but like I also didn't own a ton of N64 games. That was like
they were expensive.
That was the prime era for renting games from Blockbuster. So like Yoshi's Story, I rented a ton. Banjo-Kazooie, I rented and never owned. Like all those games, like the majority of my N64 library, I bought used from either Babbage's or GameStop or EB Games or Funko Land.
Totally.
Yes. Funko Land was the best.
Going through their like little like white pages printout with all of the trade-in values. And I was like, I can get Ocarina of Time for $7.99.
Hell yeah.
That is a steal.
It really is.
But yeah, like almost all of my N64 games were bought used. Like I think I got Smash and like Mario Party and Mario Kart and like Mario 64. Like those were the main games that I actually got or from like Christmas or everything. Everything else like I had to get used. So like it was a lot of like, you know, third party games like Glover.
Glover wasn't bad.
Yeah, Glover was decent.
Wasn't great.
Yeah, it
was definitely a rental. It was not a purchase.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although I think I did buy it in my collecting days, which is I got to start whittling down my retro collection. I talk about it all the time of like, I need to whittle it down to like the games I really, really love.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, or maybe a little beyond that, but like not just like, I've heard of this game. Yeah. But what about you, Randall? I feel like you've been a little quiet on the 64 front.
No, just listen to you guys talk about it. Like it's awesome. No, Wave Race 64 is one I wanted to highlight. It's my first 64 game before even Mario 64 that I got with the system. That was given to me by my mom at Christmas time, the first Christmas, and oh my god, that game! I played the crap out of Wave Race 64. I love every aspect of it. Got like 100%ed like all of the courses, unlocked the special courses, knew the secret where you could ride the dolphin instead of the jet ski. Like perfectly customized my character to like win races, did the stunt mode like crazy. The stunt mode was fun because you could do all kinds of different like backflips and barrel rolls and all kinds of things for the most points. The wave physics were incredible in that game and still are as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah.
Like,
okay, they're amazing.
So
love that game.
I feel like there is a specific thing with the N64 where everyone had Mario Kart 64, but then every single person had a second racing game that became their racing game.
Yeah.
And like, I know friends who like, it was Diddy Kong Racing. I know people who it was Wave Race. But for me, it was Wipeout.
Oh,
and like,
Wipeout. I didn't know they made one of those for 64.
Yeah. And it's like a very specific type. Like, I think it only had 2-player max for like multiplayer. Like, it wasn't very, I don't know, like there was a lot of pop-up. I think it was originally a PlayStation game or a Dreamcast game even. And like the N64 port was significantly lower like power or lower everything. But like it had a like very specific techno soundtrack that was really influential for me as a kid.
Hey, it was Wipeout, man. That's what they were known for.
So they had some good jams.
I remember like going to like CD stores, like when we would go on family vacations to other states, and like I would go into like CD stores and try to find a specific Fluke album because they had a song
That's awesome.
on Wipeout 64.
That's great.
Oh God. I like recently found it on Spotify. I was like, I remember being obsessed with this when I was a kid.
Yeah, you're so right though about the racing games, because like I had those two that I mentioned already, but my cousin had Diddy Kong, and I was always like, I picked it up later again in my collecting days, but I was always like jealous that he had Diddy Kong Racing, and we would play it. I would like beg, maybe not beg, but I would always ask like, can we please play this instead of Mario Kart? So yeah, Diddy Kong Racing is another great game, and honestly, like sports games were pretty big time.
Oh yeah,
like I played like between not just the Mario Tennis, but I even played a lot of like the Madden 99.
Me too.
Madden 64. Like we would play 3 or 4 players with me and my brother and my cousins.
Oh
and,
yeah.
We would even play like, okay, I'm the receiver, like running the routes. Like it was super fun. Super
the
janky,
player
but
built in
super
was just
fun.
killer for those games, man.
Yeah.
It was just
it was
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
And that, Dreamcast had that too a little later, but like not much later actually, but like it was just, I don't know. I don't know if it was just the affordability or just the obscurity of games or, just not enough games or whatever. But the 64, that 4-player plug and play was just amazing.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
And like I also want to mention Pokemon Snap, especially because now we're going to get a sequel.
Yeah.
And that sucker was a rail shooter, even though people don't think about it that way. It was, and I love rail shooters. So like I love arcade shooters like that. And that's what they gave me, plus Pokemon and like whimsy and colors, and it was a lot of fun. It still is,
and a bunch of secrets and stuff too. Where like a lot of those like original arcade ones. I mean, I'm sure there's some secrets and stuff, but like not so much like branching paths and this and that. It's more just like little Easter eggs. And
you need
stuff
to do
where, like,
X and
Pokemon,
Y in order to make like this Pokemon appear.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they can do with it in like a modern era.
I try not to get my expectations so high, but they are pretty high for
me too.
Snap too.
It could be awesome. I guess I just want to give a quick shout out to just sports games again, but specifically Mario Tennis and Mario Golf.
Oh
yes.
I played more Mario Golf both on 64 and GameCube. But Mario Tennis, probably the most ridiculous thing I've done in any game. I actually got like the star ranking or whatever. Like you could, if you won every tournament with a character, you could get like the star mode of that character. And I did that with every character in the game.
Nice.
And there's a lot of characters in that game. So,
you might be able. One of my good friends and actually one of my groomsmen at the wedding, the one who gave the speech, Joey. He is so good at Mario Tennis 64 that when I play against him, he is only allowed to score off service aces. Like,
oh my god!
If he doesn't score on a service ace, then he is not allowed to play. Like he puts the controller down, and he still wins every single time.
But Mario Tennis they don't mess around, especially in 64. Like you can get such a wicked angle on that opening serve. Like you can't even in the Switch game in Mario Tennis Aces, which that game is amazing too.
Yes,
I haven't played that in a long time, but like
so
that
is the 3DS
like
game. As far as
what's that?
So is the 3DS version if you're willing to play online. Honestly,
okay. I haven't played. I didn't even know there was a 3DS tennis one. Damn,
sure was. I played the shit out of that game, specifically online. Love me a Mario Tennis.
Yeah, those are great games, and Mario Golf for me is like if I'm just like trying to like just chill out and play a video game, like nothing gets better than Mario Golf for me personally.
Oh, man. We're not allowed to leave this Nintendo 64 conversation until we mention a couple of more games.
Get in there.
The first of which I've mentioned before on this podcast is one of my favorite puzzle games of all time, and that's Pokemon Puzzle League.
Yes.
So, just, to this day, like probably my favorite or, top 2 competitive puzzle game, just like period. Love Pokemon Puzzle League. I really, really hope that Nintendo will re-release it at some point in some format because it's just perfection to me. Everything about that game. Like all the Pokemon barks, like the way that it plays, the fact that you have to use the D-pad, like everything about that's great to me.
Did that come out in the gold silver era, or was that still just OG?
I think it's OG.
Oh man,
it definitely seems more like it's kind of like based off the cartoon.
The cartoon,
kinda.
yeah.
Like they use like the character designs from that and stuff.
Yeah, because there's even an opening skit that they did for it, where Professor Oak is telling you have to go to see him in Pokemon Village, and he's like pleading with Ash.
Man,
yeah. It's really good.
Because I was gonna say, like, for me, like very formative games that like I played with my sisters all the time were the Pokemon Stadium games.
Yeah,
Pokemon Stadium 1
sure.
and 2 were incredible for like just their mini games.
That's incredible because you saw your Pokemon in 3D for the first time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like that was like so fun, and like being able, I got the like Game Boy adapter so that I could play it on the big screen.
Hell yeah!
And you had the Doduo and the Dodrio Game Boy that could play the game at 3 times max speed if you got it, which was also great. Like,
yeah, that's useful.
Acknowledging that it was better to play that game kind of sped up.
That was another one I never had, but would always go to my friend Adrian's house with my Game Boy cartridge and like, oh, let me see my Pokemon. Like, and we would like, let's battle, or let's like, oh man, like that was definitely, maybe I was just the right age for it, but it was definitely the era of like just going over to people's houses.
Oh yeah.
And again, that 4-player multiplayer, it was just like after school, this is what we're doing. We're either playing street hockey or we're playing 64.
And everybody had a different collection of games. So like you, like I didn't own like half of the games that we're talking about, but I played almost all of them because I went to someone's house that did.
Yep, absolutely.
That's a really good point, and that's kind of interesting because it didn't have that huge of a library. But speaking of, I know you had a few more that you wanted to potentially mention before we got out of the 64 era.
Not a few more, just one more. The game that introduced us to the Rumble Pack. And that would be Star Fox 64.
Oh,
hell
of course. Yes. Of course. Obvious, but of course.
We have to talk about Star Fox. And I think we've even mentioned in passing Star Fox 64 on this podcast.
Absolutely.
I
made
double
sure
checked
to
and looked back.
Shoot.
I wasn't sure. I think we talked about Star Fox 2, and I think we probably like went off on Star Fox 64 at some point.
Because 64 is a much more interesting game, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think John's talked about it before. I don't know. We've talked about it. Everybody loves this game.
If it's not in the spreadsheet,
mediocre.
I haven't said that. I haven't thought that we've talked about it enough.
That's right. Consult the spreadsheet.
I forgot to look at the spreadsheet. I don't know why.
But yes, no, yeah, I am with you. I think that 64 is honestly, I think it's a perfect game.
Yeah.
In that I think it's infinitely replayable and like rewarding every single time you do.
Agreed.
And like the way that it offers like different art, like instead of just say like a fighting game's arcade mode where you're just, fighting a set amount of characters, and like it has the branching paths that have the different difficulties, and they like some of them have multiple endings. Like it is just such a rewarding and full game that I really hope one day they will return to form and make another game like it in the Star Fox series.
Yeah, just make another one like that. That's all you have to do, Nintendo.
It similar
like
to
a
Paper
no-brainer.
Mario.
Yes.
Yeah. Why overcomplicate it, But
like,
and even in the campaign, you could unlock like multiplayer things. There was like extra incentives to do that, and I played the multiplayer mode like crazy too, even though people didn't talk about that as much.
It was a good multiplayer. Like, you kind of had to be like with people either around your skill level, though. Like, if you were playing with someone who was way better than you or way worse than you, there wasn't much in the terms of like equalizing.
But you could unlock the tank and on foot in multiplayer. Like, it was so cool. You had different modes. Like, it was asynchronous to some degree because of like how different those different vehicles were or on foot was to control compared to just the R-Wing.
Yeah.
Like, I love that stuff, man. I got so deep into Star Fox 64.
I could still probably like do every single voice acted line.
Yeah.
Good luck. Yeah. I never got that into that game. I mean, I liked it. I played it a lot, played multiplayer a lot with my friends too. Although like I kind of think every game's kind of like that though, John, where like for me, Smash, like that's kind of why I can never get into it. I either play with people who are way better than me Actually, that's just it. I just play with people who are better than me, and it's rarely fun. So I'm just like, well, I just can't get into this. But
yeah,
although I will say Star Fox 64 3D is a good version. They did put that out.
Nice.
Yeah, that's true. That is a good solid version.
And I was going to say, like, Assault is a good Star Fox game. Like, I think that they have continued to make good Star Fox games.
Yeah.
But, like, I really just want them to make another, like, arcade-ish game.
Yeah.
Where you just play it in one sitting and it's just level after level after level.
Yep.
Whereas, like, Assault, like, you need save points. Like, that is those, like, levels are big and expansive, and, like, it is meant to be replayed and to, like, kind of like high score chase like the original, or not the original, what 64 is. But that they just haven't made another one of those yet, and I keep hoping. I would say, actually, I think my second favorite Star Fox game is Kid Icarus Uprising.
I can see that.
I still need to play that game too.
It's a good game.
I need to get that game actually. I've heard
Kid
nothing
Icarus
but great
Uprising.
things.
But that is a very that is such a Sakurai game. Like playing that,
down to the menus. That's a Sakurai game.
It's like, once you
that kind of scares me.
Like modern Smash, you're like, yep, Sakurai definitely.
That scares me so much.
It's good though. Make sure you have that little stand though.
God, yeah.
I got to get both the cartridge and the stand.
Just play a level at a time. Like your hands will cramp. It's I would love for them to like re-release it on Switch with just controller support. Like just a full port would be. I would play that game forever.
Me too. Give me another rail shooter. It's fine.
Yup.
So, John, I know we were, I guess since we're done talking about 64 games, I know we briefly mentioned that there were no Metroid 64 games. So what have you been playing this week? Because I know you've been getting your Metroid fix in.
Oh, yeah. Like we talked a little bit on last week's episode about In Other Waters, about how, that was kind of inspired by like Prime's whole system of like scanning and like getting to learn more about the environment through like, log dumps or whatever. You're reading like these walls of text that give you a lot more like background on whatever is happening in the environment. So, I had to get my like fix back in on Metroid Prime. Anytime I get a little bit of the taste of that, like I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to play that again. And
yeah, let me get the real thing.
Yeah, we were talking about Metroid Prime earlier. I don't know how many episodes I brought up Metroid Prime that I was replaying that, but I played a little bit of that, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to skip ahead to the good stuff and two. Like, I had gotten to the point where, I was like, yeah, I could, like, finish up this game and, like, fight the final boss and say I completed it for the umpteenth time, or I could just get to the part that I like in Metroid Prime 2, and, like, man, those games just do something that I just can't get in any other game.
Did you start from the beginning in both of those games again? Or do you pick up a save? Oh no!
Every single time, like what I do is the way that I play like most Nintendo games is save file 1 is my completionist file, and that's the one that I try to get 100% on. Yeah, and then whatever, like however many files are left are the ones that I like delete and like do something weird or dumb in. Like I'll try to speed run a file, or I'll try to like do a like in Breath of the Wild, like it's like I'll do one where I don't buy any armor.
Whoa.
Like I just impose restrictions upon myself, and like that's what I did for like Metroid Prime 2 is I deleted my like save file 3 slot and just started over from scratch.
Nice.
And
are you because I actually never played Metroid Prime 2. I only played like I probably got about halfway through the first one, maybe a little less, but like how does 2 differ from the first one, or is it just like expanding upon the ideas from the first one? Or
so the main issue of why I can never decide whether I like Prime 1 or Prime 2 better is that I think Prime 1 has a better like beam upgrade system, and like I think like that has a lot better like swapping like beams so that you like approach enemies in different ways, and like you have like different like attacking techniques, whereas I think 2 has like really perfected the mobility in the game. So like 2 just feels better to play in terms of like jumping and like making sure that you're hitting like the right targets and like
makes sense.
Like this is the air, like I know I can make that jump and everything just feels perfect in that. But like it also introduced an ammo system that like when I first played the game, I hated and I really didn't like. And like I grew to like it through playing it dozens and dozens of times.
So this is how John racks up 100+ hours on every game, apparently, with his multi-save
play
files.
the same game over and over again. But like,
can I say I love the box art on Metroid Prime 2?
I was waiting for John to finish and say, I know that Metroid Prime 2 has the better box art of the two games. That foily, like I would always see it at GameStop. It'd just be like, oh man, I gotta get that game.
I know, right?
But like, and it also has I think a better scanning system. So like once you've scanned an item, like its entire like the entire item is green. Like instead of it having like a little icon that's like grayed out, like it's a lot like easier in terms of UI to do that.
That sounds better to me immediately.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But it almost sounds like the jump from like Uncharted to Uncharted 2, like totally different games, kind of. But like when I went back, I was like, oh, I love Uncharted, and played Uncharted 2, and like, oh yeah, this game's sweet, continuation. And then when I went back and tried Uncharted, I was like, oh, I'm gonna play on hard mode. It was like, ooh,
feels like jank.
I don't know. Uncharted 1's a little janky compared to the later ones, so it kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah, and like, oh, God, I love like so. The thing in Metroid Prime 2 is that like there's this whole light dark thing that Nintendo likes to put in every single game that they make. At some
Particularly
every
sequel,
will at some point have a like a dark world or a light world. Like it's just what they
dark
do best.
Version. Yep.
Link to the Past. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. There's a there's a light beam and a dark beam, and like also there's like the world itself is split into like a light world and a dark world. So like there are these two coexisting planets that exist in separate realities that you like phase between using portals. And like one of them is like the original one, which is based in light, which is the Luminoth, which are a species of like, really tall bipedal aliens that, kind of have like anthropomorphic features. And then the dark side has the Ing, which are these like tripedal, like more like animalistic and like brutal enemies. And like being in the dark world will constantly cause you damage. So like the very first thing is like you lose like you meet Dark Samus and like you lose all of your powers because the Ing like basically like steal all of your weapons and like armor technology. And like throughout the course of the like game, you gain what is called the bucket suit colloquially, because it is a very like the dark suit looks so different. Like I really like the aesthetics of 2 because they do a lot of like they take a lot more chances on like the way that things look in a Metroid game than like other standard entries in the series do. So like the dark suit looks completely different from like Samus's like regular suit. But that's the thing that like at least slows the damage of being in the dark world. Like, so you still have this like constant like damage that is being done to you just by existing. But like anytime you find a light crystal or a light beacon, like you go over there and you can like slowly regain health. But like, before you get the dark suit, you're like losing health at like maybe like 3 hit points per second. Whereas like once you get the dark suit, it's like 1 per second. And that's the same rate that you're gaining it. So there's always like this real tension when you're like in the dark world and you're constantly trying to, progress through the game like you would normally in a Metroid game. But like a thing that I really loved that I think kind of gets underplayed, like it's a very subtle thing that happens in the game, is that like you constantly are fighting the Ing, which are like the bad guys or whatever. They're like the barbaric race that are like look like monsters. Like they don't have any like sympathetic characteristics in an alien like the Luminoth do. Like the Luminoth you can anthropomorphize and be like, oh yeah, like that's a person that I can talk to. Whereas the Ing, you're like, no, this is a monster.
This is the other.
Yes. So like when you're switching between like the light and dark worlds, the dark worlds are always very hostile and like very like animalistic. And like there's the time that you finally make it to the like light world sanctuary, and it's like the first city, because like all of the other ones are just like, you know, outposts or like very wild areas.
Right.
So when you make it to like the sanctuary and you see like this like beautifully constructed city in the light world, you're like, oh, this is like, I really am curious to how like the dark world version of that is. And when you get to the dark world version of it, like the way that you are like are you only encounter the Ing in a like context of them like wanting to murder you, or like like just like a very like savage context. And when you get to like the Ing hive, which is the version of like the sanctuary, like it is a beautiful Tron landscape, like so like technologically advanced but very sleek, and not
cool.
like artistic but very like brutalist in terms of architecture. And like the realization is like, oh no, they have a society. Like there's a entire context for like how they exist. Like it isn't just like that they're like animals, or like that only like they still have the capacity to be these like really intelligent and like really beautiful things. And that is something that like just hit on such a really strong level that I really think is unique to Metroid.
That's
where
cool.
Like you really only encounter a lot of these like the space pirates or other like bounty hunters in the context of violence.
Right.
So
they're the enemy. Yeah.
Right. So like actually going into the Ing hive and seeing a full society that is like really constructed, I was like, something that has never really happened like in the Metroid series outside of like, oh, here's a research complex that like you are invading to like take down Mother Brain or something. So like seeing that and having their expectations like subverted is, I think, a really incredible thing that is like unique to Metroid Prime 2.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I know we say this every time we talk about Metroid Prime, or particularly every time you bring it up, John, but I know Randall and I have that trilogy on the Wii.
Absolutely do.
We gotta play that at some point.
One of these days.
Yeah, one of these. I still have my Wii U Actually, no, I packed it up. I looked over to see if the red light was on, and it's gone. I forgot I put it in the drawer.
Mine's hooked up still. It's sitting right over there. I should.
It's handy. Yeah. Mine's handy, but it's not hooked up. But I guess we can move on from there. And I wanted to, one of the games I forgot to talk about last week when I was talking about the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam from 2020 was a game called Imp from a developer. He goes by Matt Ugg. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Matt with 2 M's and 2 T's and then an underscore and then UGH. So, yeah, I guess it is more of a ugh. But one of the cool things I will say is like no matter what platform you have, all of his games are playable in browser. Actually, that's the only way they're playable, to the best of my knowledge. And so no, like, they're not part of they don't cost any money. You just play them right in your browser. Wow. But the game he made for this year's Game Jam, or the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam, was a game called Imp. And again, the theme was Out of Control. So what it did is like, it's a 2D side-scrolling platformer, and every 3 seconds, your character, you kind of play this little demon imp, and it would explode and kind of like trigger as like a jump essentially. And you would have to kind of use that to traverse through the game and use it as like a double jump. Like, let me do it, because you could move side to side and then just jump regular. And then if you time that like mid-air and you exploded after the 3-second countdown, then you could use that as a double jump. And then there'd be like platforms that you could explode, or key blocks. I have to explode all the key platforms and then to open the door. But then once I've exploded them, there's, it's hard to get back in that direction. So it was a pretty quick game. I think I beat it in like 12 minutes or so.
Sheesh.
But again, this was a game that was made in a matter of 48 hours.
Wow.
So super impressive. Just like a really nice, clean, like 8-bit pixel art style, a great soundtrack.
Nice.
I really had a good time with this one. Like just some light puzzle platforming, but a heavier emphasis on the action. So I ended up, through finding this developer through this game jam, I had never really heard of his stuff before. But after checking out more of his stuff, I saw that his entry from the Game Jam last year was also really highly rated from the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam. And the theme of that Game Jam was only one. And you could interpret that in any way that you wanted. And he made a game called Canon, which I will have all of these games. This is the only one I haven't posted just yet, but they'll be part of that 15 minutes of game series.
Nice.
But basically, I thought I had it figured out at first. You play as this cannon, and so you can shoot one cannonball, and then you can use you're only using your mouse to play. So it's a 1-button game and a 1 cannonball game. So they kind of like took the theme a little bit further, I guess. And you basically aim, and again, so what I thought you were doing is like just whatever direction you aimed, like you would kind of propel your cannon. You would shoot a cannonball out, to the right and then propel your cannon to the left. But that's actually not the case. You have to like hit the cannon off, like the ball off of a wall, and have it come back and make contact with you. So if you're doing it like right off the ground, you can just shoot straight downwards and it essentially works like a jump. But if you want to jump higher, you have to shoot down again, straight down while you're in midair, and make sure that ball is going to ricochet back off of your character.
Oh, geez.
Because every time it collects the ball again, you can shoot it again.
Oh, geez.
But if you don't collect the ball, you just have to manually restart the level. And like,
wow.
This was another one I ripped through in under 50. Like, it's part of the 15 minutes a game series, but it's under 15 minutes on the video. And actually, all of them are.
That sounds really hard, though. You
it's
beat that?
really hard. Like, I mean, yeah, I beat it, but it's short. It's like it's just it's another game that was made. I'm pretty sure last year was also a 48-hour time limit. But it's just like it's got a really great pixel art style, another great soundtrack, and just like a really cool. Like a game that you could just like rip through at work real quick on your lunch break. Like, in all honesty, like, well, I shouldn't say real quick, but like, it took 15 minutes after I had played it a little bit to familiarize myself. So it would probably take 20, 30 minutes to get through, like just playing it from scratch, maybe.
Right.
But a couple more quick games from him that I checked out. There was another game called Melt that I actually beat in under 3 minutes. So this game is super short, but it was made for a different game jam. A lot of his games seem to be made for game jams, but it was made for the Ludum Dare game jam. And they do a ton of these, like, I don't know if it's yearly, but it's one of the more popular game jams as well. And it's kind of like it's a side-scrolling platformer, and you play as a candle that is slowly, like the flame is slowly melting out or burning out.
Nice.
And then you have to shoot. You have like an arrow, like a bow and arrow that you can only shoot as long as your flame is still lit. And then if you hit a candle in the level, they're kind of like single screen puzzle platformy levels. And if you hit a candle, it'll relight like your flame or relight the wick. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to time that. Like the way the game opens up is just perfect. I'm probably going to spend more time talking about this game than it takes to beat it. But like it opens up and you're just forced to kind of walk down this corridor to the right, and your flame fizzles out. And the nice thing is like, after your flame fizzles out, you still get one shot with your arrow. Nice. So like if you're in position, and in this case, you're just walking straight down the hall, and then you have to shoot, you're going to hit the candle at the end, and then, okay, now I can get through the door. And then later in the game, later in the 3-minute game, there'll be some enemies that get introduced that they take 2 hits, I think, but those will also relight your flame. But it burns out pretty quick. It's just like, it's kind of, like he said in the description, the development log, it said like, I really wanted to make like a Mega Man 2 style, like run and jump, like no power-ups, no anything, but this, like, I don't know what the theme of that game jam was, but it was something about like time running out or something to that effect. But it's a really cool, like a game that like when it ended, I was just like, no, like I immediately was like, I got to play more games by this guy because it's cool. so cool.
I think that's kind of a great testament to like the game design that like even like how like quickly it is for you to understand and grasp and play and finish the game. It takes longer than or takes a shorter amount of time than it takes to like describe it. I think that's a really incredible.
Yeah,
that's a good point. But and it's like it's so the pixel art's so clean and the songs are just like jamming in all of these games, like really jamming chip tunes. Just really, really awesome. And then one more I wanted to mention real quick, because this is the one I just booted up immediately after beating Melt. Like I was like, yep, I need more Matt Ugg in my life. So I played a game called Show, and this is probably my favorite of the bunch. And it's like it kind of has like it's a black and white, kind of like a silent film aesthetic. And they're like these little film, I guess it doesn't really describe that much, but there's like frames almost that are floating in the level, like these black frames that if you jump up from beneath them and hit them with your head, and you can just kind of do a regular jump, but once you jump up and hit those with your head, you kind of collect them, and then you can use it like if you have one of them. And it's really cool the way it displays that, like the UI is like has that like film countdown, like where it almost looks like a sniper scope or whatever, you know, and it counts down like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so like however many frames you've collected, it shows that number like in the background on the whole level. So it's like there'll be a 2 and I have 2 frames. And then so once I have a frame collected, I can jump. And then if I jump again, I will place one of those frames below me. And it also acts like a double jump, but it places it like a platform. And then you have to kind of like, it's like a really short, again, I beat this one in under 15 minutes.
Jeez.
But it was about a 10-minute or so game. Not made for a game jam or anything. I think in the description it just said, he was like, I had a free week and I worked on this game.
Good Lord.
It's so stylish. It's got this really great, again, like silent film era, like piano score aesthetic, like this kind of like record scratchy, like just everything about the aesthetic and like how clever the levels are designed. Like it's super short. Again, and you could play it right in your browser. Like I just booted it up and was like, oh, hey, cool. Play through this and rip through it really quick. But I just love this game. Like, I don't know. I know it's short and sweet, but like I couldn't describe why I love it so much. But I just really had a great time with this one. I thought the levels were really cleverly designed and like was just yet another one that even after the 10 or 15 minute mark, I was like, man, I wish this was fleshed out into like a full experience. I mean, I'm happy this is here and exists.
Right.
But like all of the games I've played from him have just left me wanting more. And I just really can't wait to see what else he has up his sleeve.
That's awesome.
I'm really, really excited to.
What a great sign.
Yeah, and there's about a dozen games on his page, 10 or a dozen games. So there's still a few more I need to check out. But yeah, I'll put links as always. And I know I keep saying this, so just real quick, the links in the episode descriptions up in like where there's like kind of paragraphs of sentences, I'm trying to put like the links to like the actual games, and then in the timestamps, those will be links to like any videos that we've made. Nice. Or any any supplementary material that we've produced on our end. So that'll be in the timestamp. So just to address that really quick, randomly in the middle of an episode.
We are your resource.
Yeah, but Randall, I know that you've been putting a little more time into a game that you played a little of last week.
I played a
what
lot
are you still
of.
Playing?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good sign. I need to get
the
back
only
into
thing
this
that
one.
I ended up playing last week, but I was still stuck on Bot Vice. I was stuck so much that I beat Bot Vice.
Hell yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Because we were at like level 3, 4 last time we talked about it.
I was stuck on level 4.
Out of how many?
25.
Good Lord. Okay.
Okay, so this is no retro 8 level experience.
Nope. I thought it was as I was going. I'm like, oh no, this like, because there's this overworld kind of map screen a la any Mario game essentially, and based on, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, probably like 8, maybe 10 levels. Things are already really hard, so how much harder can it get, right? And then for some reason, I just kept playing. Well, not for some reason, because this game's awesome. I kept playing it. I was stuck on it. And I just kept pushing through, and I got past level 4. And then you guys know those, what are those, back in the 90s, they had those like what are those called? The trick eye things
Magic
where
eye?
you could see the 3D visual in a 2D space.
The magic eye. The magic eye.
Magic eye.
You keep zooming in and out or whatever.
So I had to go into like a magic eye mode at some point to continue and complete levels in this game. You had to kind of like unfocus your eyes in order to survive the action in this
just
game.
Like two different planes. Like here's the enemy bullets.
Yeah.
Here's like the actual play field. That's hilarious.
Yes.
No, I get what you say. Like, yeah, when you kind of have to like open your third eye in order to like survive a bullet hell.
Essentially, yes, and that's what I unlocked in Bot Vice, or Bot Vice unlocked that in me. I'm not sure which, but I got stuck on level 23 for like a long time. Like I spent like at least a couple hours playing this level that should take 3 minutes. But it was one of those situations where I was just too tired, and like I woke up the next day and I beat it in like 3 or 4 tries. We've all had that moment too, right?
Yep. Harry Potter in the Chamber of Secrets.
But this game's great. It's all the same that I talked about the last couple of weeks, but just like gallery shooter, great retro stylings, great soundtrack, love the sprite art, love the action, I'd put it up there with Wild Guns now that I've played through it.
Damn.
And 25 levels. And what's crazier is that there's 25 more levels in an extra menu. They hid it. They hid 25 more levels.
So did you really beat it?
I saw the credits.
Okay, not according to DJ.
And then I started playing the extra levels, and I'm like, these are just as hard as like the last few levels, and I don't have that in me right at this moment.
I just can't even imagine. Like again, like even level 3 is just whooping
a level progression.
Yes.
20 levels more than you.
That's so awesome, though. Like, that's so cool that this game is... Now, does it keep up, like, the kind of varied enemies and stuff and varied play fields throughout the game? Or does it start recycling stuff?
A little bit, but in some recycling of sprites, but that's fine.
That's expected. But I know with Strikey Sisters from the same developers, like DJ and I were just like, holy shit, like every level, we didn't beat the game, but every level had totally new backdrops, new enemies, like... Always introducing new stuff to like keep it fresh, and again had a huge campaign as well. Yeah,
and there was still some of that. Like there's levels where now the enemies have their own things they can hide behind that you need to shoot away. Now there's certain enemies that like have more shielding, or like there's one level where there's like a train going by in the background that you can blow up and like blow up the guys on it. And like, so they did keep changing up where, there's some levels where there weren't boss battles, even though most of them have boss battles. So they try to like throw enough different things at you where you're never quite sure what the win state is of a certain level until you kind of do it and you like move on from that point. The other thing that I think I needed to do to win, at least in my case, is I gave up using the cover mechanic and I went just straight to rolling and like there's a clip that you posted on the Pursuing Pixels, and like that's like the end boss and me just rolling my face off and like in between like many different lasers in a bullet hell survival situation.
Yeah, that clip is nuts.
Yeah.
I saw you post that. I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah. I'm like, I have to post this because it's just ridiculous. That was a third eye mode that I got into there. But it just feels so good. Like it just feels so good to play. I did have to go back to one other mechanic that I briefly touched upon that I just want to talk about real quick before we wrap up is there's a whole timer component to the whole string of levels in the campaign of the game in Bot Vice. So there's constantly this timer in the bottom right of each level, and it's counting how fast you beat a level. And it's also why I gave up the cover system, because I can beat a level faster if I'm not.
That makes sense.
Right. If I'm covering, I'm waiting for the bullets to go past me, and I'm wasting seconds. If I'm rolling, I can attack faster and beat like best defense is a good offense type of thing. Like just go.
Oh yeah, that's how I play games.
Yes, that typically is how I play games too. And you get in that zone and it feels great. And I did end up having to go back to one of the first, like I think it was level 3 or 4 that I had originally gotten stuck on. They give you a grade in each level based on how fast you complete it and the points you get. And in that level, I had a grade of like I, and that's out of the alphabet, right? So, so like,
I for improvement or something.
Yeah. Let me replay this with the skills I have now, and then immediately, because I was playing level 23 or 24, immediately turned that from an I to an A. And it
Nice.
saved me like a minute of time that I could then apply to the last couple of levels. And I beat this game essentially with 3 seconds to spare, which is nuts.
Oh my god! But you can go back and shave off. Like
Yes.
it just saves your best time from each level.
Yes.
and you can go back and shave it off. That's really cool.
It's very
yeah.
cool.
No, that's a good.
That like
mechanic.
almost adds more depth to the game. Yeah,
Yes.
because I think you only get because we mentioned it briefly last week. I think you only get like 35 minutes at the start of the game. Or
It's something like
or-
that. I should have looked before we started talking about it this time, but yeah, that sounds right.
I know
in
it's
that
under an
range.
hour. It's well under an hour, and now knowing that there's 25 levels, that's no fucking joke, man.
Yeah.
So wait, like, what was the fastest you beat like one of the earlier levels?
Oh gosh, good question. Probably typically like 30-40 seconds was like a pretty fast time in a level. But more on average was like a little over a minute, I would say.
Okay.
To beat a level could get you an A rank. Especially if there's a boss battle, because those guys can be sponges sometimes.
They take
Right.
a little longer for sure. Yeah.
But man, I just went nuts on this game.
Nice.
That's
DYA
impressive,
Games, Kudos.
Yeah. Definitely check out their stuff because
Yeah.
the 3 that I've played, and I know they have one more game called Viviette as well that's on the
Oh.
Switch. It looks like more of like a horror like exploration game, like
Okay.
16-bit style. So I don't. It's not really my thing, so I haven't looked into that one too much. But
Yeah.
the arcadey ones, that we've talked about, Superstar Path, Strikey Sisters, and Bot Vice. Like I give all those the PP stamp of approval.
There you go, man.
Like those games are awesome.
Yeah, I love this game. Definitely gets my stamp of approval. Bot Vice.
Yeah.
Play it.
I gotta get back on that. I'm really glad that you saw it through because there's something about I don't have like that competitive of a nature to me, but
Yeah.
like I definitely
You're not
when
DJ
I
going through every single game.
yeah, but like when I remember when we were playing like way back when we worked together at Best Buy, Randall, when
Yeah.
we bought when Super Paper Mario came out. I remember me and your wife Tina were talking about
Oh yeah.
like our progress in Super Paper Mario, and just like her talking about parts that I hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh fuck you, Tina. Like I got to play more tonight, and like I'd go beat like 3 chapters, and like I have like this weird competitive like, oh, Randall beat that game. Oh, now I got to beat that game or see
yeah.
see the game. It's not even like about beating it. It's just
Yeah.
about like I want to
Friendly
be able to talk
competition.
about it.
Experience it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's even about like kind of like we were talking before. Like before that we started recording, but like I just want to be able to talk about these games with you guys.
Yep.
And like now that I know Randall's seen it through,
Yep.
I want to see it through so like we can talk about the whole thing.
I mean, the game of the month format was a little untenable for the podcast, but it was nice in making me like actually complete some games.
Right.
Yeah, or like check
Same.
out a game that like I might not have played otherwise. So
Yep.
speaking of, God, I still got to play Undertale. But
Randall,
I'll
what
get
was
on
your
it
game
eventually.
It Monster Boy in the what's it called?
Monster Boy in the Curse Kingdom or something.
Curse Kingdom.
Or
Yeah, Curse
it's something
Kingdom.
like that. That game looks cool. Yeah, we got to sync up on that too. So
Yeah.
we're running out of time here. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we
We got some time, but we're running out of time at the same time.
It's been an
but I think we
interesting year.
yeah, to say the least. To say the least. But I think that's pretty much a good place to wrap it up there this week, guys. How you feeling?
I'm
Yeah.
feeling good.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, as always, you can find us at pursuingpixels.com. As I always forget to say, we're on Discord. You can find the link at the very bottom of the episode description and links to everything else, our YouTube, our Twitter, our Instagram, every other thing that we have on the internet. There's links to it at the bottom of our episode description. And like I said, in the middle of the episode, check out all the links in the actual description itself and in the timestamps. There's videos. There's like links to the developers page if they have one. And if I'm not lazy enough. And yeah, thanks for listening. As always, I'm running out of things to say. And take care.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Yeah, we had a
even
lot
with
of
the-
energy behind the shit we were talking about this time.
Yeah, and even with like the tangent in the middle, like we had like a 25-minute music tangent.
Like we
Why
Like
not?
it'd be its own bonus episode.
Release that as like a mid-week episode.
Yeah.
Honestly, is worth holding on to for that purpose, potentially.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
For real.
That's great.
Because yeah, who knows? On a week that we're just like, oh shit, something came up, we don't have an episode. Like, hey, you want to hear us talk about music instead of games this week? Too
No,
bad. That's
well,
all
here
we
it is
got.
anyway.
Too bad. We didn't play any games, and all of our computers finally died.
God. That is such a
It's only a
real-
matter of time.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time.